For example, I could ask myself, have you ever been to South America? And I would respond by saying, yes, I have. Or, no, I haven't. And then the other person might ask, amazing. Where did you visit? Or when did you go? And I would respond, now being specific, so past simple, by saying that, well, I visited South America when I went to Argentina. And I went to Argentina in 2014. So, 12 years ago now. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Lewis, and it's a pleasure to be here once again on another Friday, because every single Friday I post a new podcast, and well, I hope you like it, of course, because it's, as I've mentioned before, a little bit of therapy for me. It's a way of me having a chat in front of the camera with my microphone, answering different questions, teaching different expressions, and sometimes reading some stories, dialogues, and so on. And, well, if you're listening on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review so more people can discover the podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then tell me in the comments, what topics would you like me to cover in the future? Are there any grammar subjects or vocabulary subjects that you would like me to go over in the future? Leave me a comment and don't forget to leave a like as well. And it's a pleasure to be back. And if you are watching me, you might notice that my cheeks are a little bit red. I'm a bit flushed. And the reason why I'm a bit flushed is because, well, it's a beautiful sunny day here. The weather is quite good. It's almost 20 degrees. And I've just been for a quick run, but not just a normal run. You see, I'm trying to get fitter. I'm trying to improve my stamina and my endurance and my speed. So sometimes I mix it up. And some days I'll go for a longer, slower run. But given that I haven't got a lot of time today, I went for a quick sprint. And, well, it's perfect because just around the corner from my flat, there is a big hill that goes down to a lake. So I can run nice and quickly downhill as quickly as I can to arrive to a square and then get to a lake. And, well, there I sprint around the lake 2 or 3 times until I'm out of breath and I'm breathing heavily, because they say by doing some kind of interval training and sprint training, you can get fitter. So that's what I've just done. So my cheeks are bright red. And after a warm shower as well, I'm even warmer. So that's what I've just done. And now I'm here to discuss this week's topic, which is all about the present perfect. You know, the grammatical structure, the present perfect. Like, I have been for a run. Have you had a coffee yet today? And in particular, the focus of this week's podcast is all about the structure of have you ever? Have you ever been to England? Have you ever flown a plane? Have you ever eaten a scorpion? Have you ever spoken English to native speakers? Have you ever cooked your own beef Wellington? You get the point, right? So in this topic, this week, I'm going to be answering plenty of questions using the structure, have you ever? And if I have done any of these actions, I'll be adding more specific details. And when you are specific about if you have done something or not, that's when we would switch from the present perfect to the past simple because you are being specific about when it happened. For example, I could ask myself, have you ever been to South America? And I would respond by saying, yes, I have. Or, no, I haven't. And then the other person might ask, amazing. Where did you visit? Or when did you go? And I would respond, now being specific, so past simple, by saying that, well, I visited South America when I went to Argentina. And I went to Argentina in 2014. So, 12 years ago now. And I stayed with an Argentinian family. They took good care of me. They looked after me. And I traveled around the country a little bit whilst I was there. And I was working as an English teaching assistant in a local school. And I had a blast. I had a ball. I had a whale of a time. It was an unforgettable experience. So that's an example. Now, let me begin with all of these questions. And whilst you're listening, I want you to think, have you ever done this? And if you have, imagine how you would respond. So, the first question is, have you ever lied about your age? Have you ever lied about your age? I think I have. Yes, I have lied about my age because when I was 16, 17, I got a fake ID. So I ordered online a fake identification card to be able to get served in bars and restaurants and shops to get alcohol. So, of course, when I was using my fake ID, I would be lying. People might not ask me how old I was, but they would ask for my ID when I was buying beer, for example. So, as a result, yes, I have lied about my age. What about you? Have you ever lied about your age? The second question, have you ever fallen asleep in a public place? Have you ever fallen asleep in a public place? Now, this one I'm not sure because I don't fall asleep very easily or very quickly. I need to be absolutely exhausted in order to fall asleep. But if we count public transport, then yes, I have definitely fallen asleep many times on planes, on buses, on trains, even. So if this counts as a public place, I have absolutely fallen asleep in a public place. But I think it is only when I'm traveling. I've never fallen asleep, I don't know, on a park bench, for example, or I've never fallen asleep while waiting at the train station. It's only when I get on the train, or I get on the plane, or I get on the bus, and then, my blood pressure goes down, I can finally chill, finally relax, and that makes me a little bit sleepy. I think being in the back of a car or the back of a bus makes you sleepy anyway. It's like you're being rocked like a baby. So it almost puts you to sleep. How about you? Have you ever fallen asleep in a public place? Now, the third question, have you ever re-gifted a present you didn't want? Have you ever re-gifted a present you didn't want? I'm sure you know what I'm on about here. You know what I'm on about, meaning you know what I'm talking about, what I'm referring to. Because there are times when somebody might get you a gift, and then you can tell on your face that you're not happy with it. You don't like the gift. And you might have to lie and tell the person, like, thank you so much. You're the best. I really needed these socks, Oh, thank you. That's so thoughtful of you. I couldn't live without this bottle opener that you've bought me. But I think usually, in my case at least, if somebody gets me a gift and I don't like it, I just put it away in a drawer or in a cupboard, and then it's as if I never got it in the first place. I don't think I'd be cheeky enough to re-gift the gift. To get these socks and think, perfect. I can get my brother-in-law these socks and give them to him for his birthday. But it's a good idea. Maybe it's something I should do, just to get rid of things that I don't actually want. But yeah, as I said, it's a bit rude, it's a bit cheeky, and I think I'd feel bad. I'd feel like they would know that I am re-gifting something that I don't like. So no, I've never done it. Have you? The fourth question. Have you ever pretended to know the lyrics to a song when you didn't? Have you ever pretended to know the lyrics to a song when you didn't? For sure. 100%. Without a shadow of a doubt, I have done this because I'm not very good at memorizing lyrics. I'm pretty awful when it comes to memorizing lyrics. And there are times if I'm singing along with my friends on a night out and they know every single word. They know all the lyrics, off by heart. They have memorized it. And then they'll hear me kind of humming along, going like, ah, la, da, la, da, ah, na, la, ah, na, 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 na. And you can tell that I don't know the lyrics. Luckily, in most of these scenarios, the other people are singing so loudly, or the music is on so loud, that you can't really notice if I know the lyrics or not. But I've done this so many times. And a funny little story, which, if there are any Spanish people listening to this, then you might be familiar with it. Do you know the song da 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 da? Ah, yeah. Because there was a random caller on a Spanish radio program who called in requesting a song. And what he said is, "Hello, I would like you to put on the following song. I don't know the name of the song, but it goes a little bit like this. Estos son Reeboks or son Nikes? Oh, night." And what I just said in Spanish is, are these Reeboks or are they Nikes? The two brands of clothing, sports clothing, Reebok and Nike. So this caller called the radio station and requested this song, but he didn't know the lyrics. And if you're familiar with this song, it definitely doesn't say, are these Reeboks or are they Nikes? Estos son Reeboks or son Nikes? The real lyrics here, which I do actually know, is this the rhythm of the night? Oh, night. Oh, yeah. So, estos son Reeboks or son Nikes? And is this the rhythm of the night? The night. So that's a funny little thing that, of course, I'm sure many of you can relate to, even if this hasn't happened to you with Spanish, but maybe there are other song lyrics in English that you don't know what they are, but in your own language, it sounds like a completely different phrase, which I think it's pretty funny. It cracks me up, for sure. It makes me laugh. But anyway, number 5, let's move on. Have you ever cried during a Pixar movie? Have you ever cried during a Pixar movie? I don't think I have, I don't think I have cried during a Pixar movie. And it's strange because it's not like I'm not very sensitive, because I can be quite sensitive when watching TV series, sports matches, reality TV programs, and there are times when I will cry a little bit watching something. Last night, I was watching MasterChef, and it's one of my guilty pleasures that I like watching people cook, and it's kind of entertaining, it's addictive, it's interesting. So I was watching MasterChef, and there are certain moments when the contestants are so happy. They're over the moon, they're on cloud nine, they're delighted, and they're hugging their family. And you can see tears coming out of their eyes. And it makes me a little bit emotional as well. It moves me. So last night, I wasn't crying. I wasn't like bawling my eyes out, but I was getting a little bit emotional. I could feel a teardrop coming into my eye. So that happens with real people. But to be honest, it never really happens with cartoons. So watching a Pixar movie, I don't know what it is. Perhaps I can't really relate to the characters as much. So then it doesn't hit me in the same way. So no, I don't think I have ever cried during a Pixar movie. Have you? Do you ever get emotional watching these Disney Pixar movies? Now, number 6. Have you ever Googled yourself? Have you ever Googled yourself? Yes, of course. I have Googled myself. I think I Googled myself as well before I became well known, quote unquote, well known. Because, of course, now part of my business model is to have a presence online making content. So I know that if I Google myself, my YouTube channel will come up, my Instagram will come up, certain podcast episodes might appear as well. Then you'll have strange searches that other people might have made. So if I start searching English with Lewis, it might come up like English with Lewis, age. English with Lewis, girlfriend. English with Lewis, topless. It's cringy, but it's true. It happens. So I have Googled myself. I don't do it often, of course. But I was curious. So from time to time, I will Google myself to see if it's easy to find access to my website and my classes, and if it's easy to access the separate website for my application as well. So it's a little bit embarrassing to say it, but yes, I do sometimes Google myself. How about you guys? Do you ever Google yourself? And if you do Google yourself, what comes up? What appears? Does Google know anything about you? Or have you maintained your privacy? Now, the 7th question. Have you ever accidentally walked into a glass door? Have you ever accidentally walked into a glass door? Now, this can be dangerous. I definitely have walked into a glass door before, but only ever walking very, very, very slowly. So the glass didn't shatter. It didn't break. Glass, by the way, if it breaks into many different pieces, we use the verb to shatter. So I've never run into a glass door and it shatter. But I've definitely walked into it before realizing that, well, there was a door and it wasn't just, I don't know, a normal path to the exit of a shop. But there's actually a pretty sad story with my cousin. And my cousin, when he was on holiday, and he must have been like 5 years old, with his mum and dad, my aunt and uncle, and he was running, and he ran into a glass door. And it's horrible because the glass shattered. And I wasn't there, but I've heard stories from my auntie saying that, of course, he was bleeding and they were fearing for his life. And this is when they were on holiday in Spain 20 years ago now. So they quickly called the ambulance, and they got the ambulance to pick him up and take him to a local hospital. And luckily, everything was all right. He didn't have any major injuries or major wounds, but he did have a scar on his head and a scar around his back, which cured over time, and now you can't even notice. This was a pretty scary moment because they saw a little kid on holiday when you're supposed to be having fun run through a glass door and start bleeding all over. So it was a horrible moment. Luckily, he was absolutely fine. I think the staff at the hospital were absolutely lovely. They didn't speak Spanish, but the nurse or doctors spoke more than enough Spanish. So my auntie and uncle are forever grateful to the staff at the hospital for picking him up very quickly and managing to get him a hospital bed. And I don't think they performed any kind of surgery, but they did use stitches and glue to be able to help these wounds to scar in a less noticeable way. So be careful, guys. That's a word of warning to not run into a glass door. But let's keep going. We have many more of these have you ever questions. So on the next slide, we have you ever eaten an entire pizza by yourself in one sitting? Have you ever eaten an entire pizza by yourself in one sitting? Of course, many times. I always order at least one pizza. And I think I've got to come clean and make a confession here. Because there's a really good pizzeria around the corner in my neighborhood in Brussels, and it's like Neapolitan style, with the kind of soggy dough, but the crust is very puffy, and it's amazing. Absolutely delicious pizza. And when we're ordering a takeaway, and I feel like a cheap meal, between the two of us, we will order 3 pizzas. I'll order a random flavor. My fiance will order a random flavor. And then I will always get an extra margarita. Because, margarita is the original, it's tasty, it's delicious, and it's usually maybe €5 cheaper. And for me, with one normal-sized Neapolitan-style pizza, I'm not quite satisfied. It's maybe enough if I'm having lunch, but at the weekend, when I really want to pig out, it's just not enough. I'm not satisfied. I'm not full if I only have one pizza. So I've got into the habit of ordering 2, only when it's to take away, because if it's in a restaurant, then, I'm not that shameless. I would feel really embarrassed having 2 pizzas to myself. But genuinely, I will have 2 pizzas to myself. My fiancée will have her pizza, and sometimes she will give me some of her crusts. So I will have 2 pizzas and some extra crusts. And to be honest, I've still got room for a dessert after that. So I am a machine. I am a fat so-and-so. That's another way of saying a fat bastard. So yeah, I sometimes have 2 entire pizzas by myself in one sitting. Shame on me. Shame on me. Now, number 2. Have you ever spent more than $50 or €50 on takeout in a single day? Yes, I probably have. Just because takeaway food is very expensive nowadays. So if you're getting a big meal for yourself and for your partner, and maybe for a couple of friends, then you can easily spend over €50 on takeout or takeaway food. So yeah, 100%. We'll move on to the next question. Have you ever cleaned your room by just shoving everything under your bed. Just shoving it under your bed. If you shove something, you kind of push it or place it without care. So yes, when I was living with my parents or when I was at university, I didn't clean my bedroom as much as I should. I didn't pay a lot of attention to detail. And sometimes, if I was having people over, or maybe I was about to have a date, I would clean my room, but I'd do the bare minimum. I'd do only what would need to be done without doing a kind of spring cleaning session. So I'd maybe wipe some surfaces, I would make my bed just about, and then if there were clothes on the floor, sometimes I would just shove them under my bed. Meaning I'd just push them under my bed because, as they say, out of sight, out of mind. If you don't see something, then it doesn't bother you. It doesn't annoy you. Out of sight, out of mind. Now, the next question number 4. Have you ever sent a text about someone to that actual person by mistake? Let me repeat. Have you ever sent a text about someone to that actual person by mistake? I'm trying to remember, but I don't think I have. I don't think I've sent maybe a rumor or gossiping text about someone to that person. No, I don't gossip very much. I don't speak behind other people's back too much. You know, I think, as I've said a few times, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. So I don't think I've ever sent a text about someone to that actual person by mistake. Phew, thank God. Question number 5. Have you ever pretended to be on the phone just to avoid talking to someone? Have you ever pretended to be on the phone just to avoid talking to someone? Yes, I have absolutely done this before. Maybe not necessarily pretending to be on the phone and having a conversation, but there are times when I might walk past someone that I know, but I don't feel like speaking to. So maybe here in Brussels, even with friends of friends that I would hang out with in a group, but if it's just me on my own, walking past him or her on his own or her own, then if they don't see me or look at me, then I will probably pretend that I haven't seen them. And I'd look down and I'd start scrolling on my phone, or I'd look away and just hope that they don't say anything. And then if they do say, Lewis, how are you? How's it going? What's up? Funny seeing you here. Then I would keep it nice and short and sweet. And I'd say to them like, amazing. I didn't know you were there. Ha ha ha. Anyway, all right. See you later. I better get going. I'm in a rush. Bye-bye. So I do this sometimes. And it makes me seem like I'm very ignorant and I'm not very sociable. And sometimes that's the truth. Not all the time. There's a time and a place for everything. But yep, again, I have to come clean, to confess, to tell you the truth. Now, number 6. Have you ever worn the same outfit 2 days in a row without washing it? Have you ever worn the same outfit 2 days in a row without washing it? Well, okay, not exactly, but more or less. For example, jeans. I hardly ever wash my jeans. I think I wash my jeans once a month. Obviously, if they've got stains, if they're visibly dirty, I'll chuck them in the washing machine and I'll wash them, of course. But with jeans, usually, I just keep putting them on and I'll wear the same jeans over and over again, day after day after day. So that's one thing. However, with boxers, with underwear, I would only wear it 2 days in a row if, for example, today I've got my shirt on, I've got my jeans, I'm about to go out to meet someone for lunch. Then tomorrow morning, before working, I might go for a run or go to the gym wearing the same boxers and socks and just changing my shirt to a nice football shirt and my jeans to some shorts. That I do quite often. To save washing up, I will re-wear the same boxers in the morning after when I'm going to do exercise to avoid putting on some fresh boxers to then get them sweaty and have to wash 2 boxers for no apparent reason. I don't know if you're going to think that I am a dirty so-and-so. And fair enough if you think so. But I already have to put on a washing 3 times a week or something like that. So if I can cut down on the amount of laundry sessions I do, then, it's a weight off my shoulders. It's much better. But a full outfit 2 days in a row without washing it? No, I would never do that. I promise. I'm not that filthy. I'm not that dirty. Now, 6 more questions. Again, have you ever? Hopefully, you will be experts in have you ever by the time that you have listened to this entire podcast. So, number 1, have you ever gone on a solo trip to a different city or country? Have you ever gone on a solo trip to a different city or country? Yes, I have gone on a few solo trips, but not that many, to be honest. If I have the option, I prefer to travel with friends or family rather than go on my own. But when I was finishing my Erasmus in Palermo, in Italy, Sicily, I wanted to visit a couple of other Italian cities before heading back home. So I got a flight from Palermo to Napoli, to Naples, and I stayed in Naples on my own for 3 or 4 days. I stayed in a hostel, I had a chat with some strangers, but most of the time I was reading a book and I was wandering around the city. And I love the city, it's amazing. I feel like I should probably go back, to be honest. And from there, I got on the train to Rome, and I spent another 3 or 4 days on my own in Rome. And again, beautiful city. I didn't do that much, but I ate well. I walked around the city as much as possible, and I spent time chilling out in some parks. And I did a similar thing in Milan as well. So this was during my Erasmus. But other than that, no. I've never been on a big solo trip to cities or countries very far away from Europe. So it's only really happened once in Italy. How about you? Have you ever been on a solo trip? Or do you prefer to stick to the same group of people to travel with? For me, it's better to go with people personally, but everybody's different. And the second question, have you ever actually missed a flight? Have you ever actually missed a flight? No, I have never actually missed a flight. The nearest I've come to missing a flight was last year when I went on a stag do. I went on a bachelor party, which was just over a year ago, and we went to Girona and we stayed in a villa. It was amazing. We had a fantastic time, and I had to come back a day early because I didn't want to take so much time off work and off classes. So I had to get a taxi on my own to the airport at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And the taxi was late, and I had forgotten to check in. And this had never happened to me before. But I guess so much partying, so much time with my friends, I wasn't thinking about the routine. So I got to the airport and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, I forgot to check in. How could that possibly happen? And I still had another hour and a half before the flight took off. So I wasn't in a serious rush. I wasn't actually in danger of missing my flight, but I had never missed the deadline to check in before, which, for your information, for Ryanair is 2 hours before takeoff. And I had to pay an extra 30 euros for checking in late. And I had to go to the counter at check-in and say, I'm really sorry, I missed the deadline. I forgot to check in on time. How do I do it? And then they told me, well, you have to pay a fee, but we can do it no problem. So it was a bit annoying, but it wasn't the end of the world. And that is the nearest I've come to actually missing a flight. Number 3, have you ever got a tattoo that you now regret? Have you ever got a tattoo that you now regret? No, I have never got a tattoo at all. I am tattooless. And I'm not against tattoo. I think some of them look quite nice, depending on the tattoo. Some of them can be a little bit chavvy. And if something is chavvy, it doesn't look very stylish. So some tattoos can be chavvy. Other tattoos can be very stylish and can be quite attractive as well. And when I was at uni, when I was 19, I spent a summer working in Mallorca, in Magaluf, in a very British colonized area of Mallorca where you have lots of bars and clubs and restaurants. And I was working as a rep. So my job was to try to get people into my bar, offering them free shots and stuff like that. It's funny because I've changed so much since then. But back then, this was, an amazing plan, an incredible summer. And during this period of time, I was really considering getting a tattoo. I like the idea of getting a full sleeve. But then I was a bit indecisive. I couldn't make up my mind of what exactly I wanted my tattoo to be like. What kind of designs or patterns I wanted my sleeve to be. So in the end, over a period of time, I started to think to myself and ask myself, like, Lewis, is it worth it? If you don't know what kind of tattoo you want, what's the point in getting a tattoo? Because it's more or less permanent. So nowadays, I'm quite glad that I didn't get a tattoo because it's just not my thing. I'm just not that interested. You never know in the future if I might get a tattoo or not. But as of now, I have never got a tattoo. Therefore, I have never regretted getting a tattoo. Now, number 4. Have you ever gone skinny dipping? Have you ever gone skinny dipping? Yes, I have been skinny dipping. And skinny dipping is when you go for a swim in usually the sea, but maybe a lake or a river, completely naked, completely in the nude. So yes, I have been skinny dipping. I've been to nudist beaches. And when I've been there, I have, of course, got into the ocean to go skinny dipping. But also in the middle of the night, after maybe having a party, I've been skinny dipping with a group of friends where we've all run into the sea and taken off our boxers or bikinis at the same time. No funny business or anything like that. Just swimming and just going in and getting out. And it's a good feeling. It is absolutely a good feeling. Skinny dipping, I think it feels liberating. Swimming naked, oh, it's so natural. So yes, I have done it, but only at nudist beaches or at night where, of course, other people couldn't see me. And number 5, have you ever been kicked out of a bar or a club? Have you ever been kicked out, evicted from a bar or a club? Me personally, I don't think so. I don't think I've ever been kicked out of a bar or a club. My friends have, absolutely. And then I've accompanied them, I've gone with them, so they're not alone. So, in one way or another, I have been kicked out as part of a bigger group. But I behave well. I don't get angry. So I'm not going to start a fight with anybody in a club or in a bar. So no, to be honest, I've never been kicked out of a bar or a club. What about you? Has this ever happened to you? And now the last question. Have you ever tried to lie your way out of a speeding ticket? Have you ever tried to lie your way out of a speeding ticket? Now, honestly, I've never even had a speeding ticket. I've never got a speeding ticket. I've definitely gone over the speed limit on multiple occasions, but only a little bit. Within the 10% more or less that is allowed, or only if I can see cars in front of me are already speeding, then I feel safe enough to speed with them, because that makes me think that there won't be any speed cameras on the horizon ahead of me. But if I see something that looks like a speed camera, I instantly slam on the brakes and I slow down, because I'm stingy, I'm tight-fisted, I don't like having to fork out money for anything. To fork out is to pay a lot, usually when you don't want to, reluctantly. So I've never got a speeding ticket. I have once had a parking ticket, but hey, I paid it as quickly as possible before the fee rose and got more expensive. So yeah, I don't drive a lot, so luckily this hasn't happened to me yet, and I hope it never happens to me. Now, to finish, in class this week, as always, we have been discussing these questions, and with some of the lower levels, maybe the B1s, I've been discussing mainly these questions that I've been answering. But then, for higher levels, like B2 and C1, we've also been going over some have you ever phrasal verb questions. And not only that, we've been going over some have you ever idiom questions as well, mainly for the higher levels. And we haven't got time for me to go over any of these questions right now, but that's a reminder that if you're interested in joining my classes, both private classes or group classes with the British English Immersion Club, the most affordable and complete way of learning English with me, I'll leave a link in the description. And if you're not interested, or you just want some extra support 24/7, wherever you want and whenever you want, then you can use my application, English with Lewis. You can download it on the App Store or Google Play, and you can try it completely for free. So, all of that is in the video description. Thank you once again for joining me, and I hope you liked it. So I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!